Good morning, Tom! This isn't to John. This is to Tom. Tom, also known as Frezned. He was wrong in his video, and not about the part where I'm a New York Times bestselling author, because, as you did not know, that video that Tom made was actually made many years in the future. And in that future, I have written several New York Times bestselling novels. But yeah, it's an unspecified amount of time in the future, so you're gonna have to give me some time before I can churn those out. But what he was wrong about, I'm going to get into now. So I went on Tumblr and I posted an image that I made of Carl Sagan's famous pale blue dot image when Voyager passed Pluto, turned it around, took a picture of the Earth, and it was just this mote of dust in a sunbeam. And Carl Sagan has a beautiful line, it's not a line, but like basically an essay that he read about this in Cosmos, where he discusses that every hero, every coward, every laundry worker, every king, every every bloodbath, every thought that's ever occurred, every person you've ever known happened on that little speck of light in a sea of darkness. And that's both amazing and it's also sort of humbling, at the very least, to say, like, maybe what we think of as these like triumphant, huge things that we're always fighting for aren't as triumphant and huge, and maybe we should chill a bit. So the picture I posted said, "I'm sorry I couldn't hear you over the sound of how insignificant we all are." And hopefully I'll have put a picture of that up in this video already. And the reason I said that, one, there's this meme that "sorry I couldn't hear you over the sound of how awesome I am" is a meme. And then I recently saw, not recently, but some months ago, saw a picture of Neil deGrasse Tyson, and it said, "I'm sorry I couldn't hear you over the sound of how awesome science is." The insignificance is something that people feel when they look up and they realize, oh my god, in the space of a pencil eraser, there's as many galaxies as there are people, or what? That's not true, but whatever. It would appear to be infinite out there, and it's not technically, but it is close enough to the point where, as Douglas Adams put it, if fast interstellar travel were possible, we would not need to manufacture anything because there would be a planet somewhere on which that thing would grow. And so we could just harvest mattresses from the mattress growing world where mattresses grew like plants. What Tom says in his video is entirely true, which is that we only know of one place where there's life. The question then becomes, is there something that's about life that makes it more valuable than the rest of the universe? And I think subjectively, yeah, sure, of course. I mean, I'd prefer there to be life on Earth than not. But is there objectively? I don't know. It depends on what the definition of good and bad is. I feel good and bad is something that's created by life, or interesting is something, the concept of something being interesting, something that's just created by life. It's not it's not an objective quality. You can't like quantify interestingness and put it on a scale and do delta I and figure out how interestingness changes over time. So maybe that we should be trying that. That would be really interesting, I think, if we tried that. Could we do that? I'm in favor of trying to figure out a way to quantify interestingness in a sort of like physical property like mass. we would need a new fundamental particle, of course, some kind of quantum field particle that would be the interestingness particle. Then they'd be searching for that, and they'd have to build a whole new particle accelerator. It would be very confusing, but I'm still in favor of it. I think that what Tom kind of where we disagree a little bit, and it's basically semantics, is that I don't think that we matter cosmically. I think that we matter to each other. I don't think that the universe cares about us. That is where this feeling of insignificance comes from, where we realize that there's this giant universe, and we are a tiny in terms of certainly the amount of volume. We're a very tiny part of it. In terms of the amount of interestingness, we may be a fairly large part of it. I don't know, but we can't quantify it, nor can we measure it in other places. So we're stuck on that. But what I do know is that the universe doesn't care about us. We care about us. We care about each other. We care about interestingness. We care about the planet. We care about life. The significance of our world comes not from outside. It comes from inside. We grant it significance. We grant all of our goals and aspirations and qualities and values. We grant them significance. Those things are constructions. I'm not saying that they're constructions of society. They could very well be constructions of our being. Like we could not live without them. But they would not live without us. So in that sense, they're constructions. And I'm not saying that we should, get rid of them or anything. I think that they are a huge part of what we are, and that relationship between ourselves and other people and our values and like the feeling of it, of the world having a meaning. I think that's all very important to us. The question of whether or not what's happening on Earth is intrinsically valuable, I would love for there to be a system, and I think that there probably are ways of understanding the world in which there is a system, and not just religious ones, but also, if we're talking about complexity or the fundamental particle of interestingness or whatever, where you actually are saying that there's an objective reason why the thing that happens on the Earth is more interesting than the thing that happens on Mars or the thing that happens on Kepler 22b or whatever. That's how I'm feeling. And to be honest, like the graphic that I posted is the kind of thing that you feel when you look up at the night sky or you look at the Hubble Deep Field. And it's probably the Hubble Deep Field would have been a better example of that quote making sense, being like, look, this was an empty spot of sky and it's full of galaxies. Whereas the pale blue dot image is more of a not that. But I feel like it conveyed it better somehow. It was easier to very simply say, like, this is Earth, whereas the Hubble Deep Field, for a lot of people, requires explanation because you're not familiar with that image necessarily, which is insane. They should be. So do we understand it all now? Do we understand where Tom's coming from, where I'm coming from? If there is no way to understand interestingness or complexity in terms of a value, a physical value, then all value of interestingness, all value of life comes from life appreciating life, not from the cosmos appreciating life. And that's how I feel. Am I done now? I'm really looking forward to editing it. I'm not really sure what I said.